gonna do it horizontally. Horizontal, because you look at the bird, you see that it's actually fits better horizontally. Right.
Oh.
So how do you decide on what is better, horizontal or vertical? Well, the majority of the body of the bird goes more sideways, right? Like if you just fit this whole thing in here, you can say, okay, if this is majority of its body, it kind of has slight angle like this, right? At which the whole body turns at. And then on top of that, we can add the head, which is going to be something like this, right? And then in addition, where the feet come out, the feet are going to be about this long, and they're going to stop right here. Does that fit into the rectangle of the paper, the sort of our viewing window, right? Does that fit well?
I would say so.
Plus a little tail here, but not much in this particular bird. So therefore it seems like maybe horizontal is good. The other thing is, you look at it and you measure the width, so just how wide is the whole bird from the very rightmost point to the leftmost point, and then you measure from the feet to the head. And I see that,
to the head?
Yeah, from the feet to the top of the head, you measure like from the tail. The leftmost point is the tip of the tail, obviously in this case, and the rightmost point is something between the chest and the beak. They almost line up, right? So you measure this distance by sight measurement, right? And then you turn it and you compare it, like, and you say, okay, so what I just measured is the legs are a little bit longer and the head's a little bit. So right now this measurement to this measurement is not what I've measured, okay? What I've measured is that it's a little bit taller than it's wide. It's almost a square, but it's a little bit taller than it's wide. So if we say we keep the tail here, we keep the chest here, and one other thing note right now is that the tail is closer to the edge, and the chest and the face where it's facing is further away from the edge. But if you look at the bird and you think about the whole placement, does it look right? Or do you feel like you need to move it over?
Yeah, I feel like it does need to be moved over just like a little bit, because I feel like it's more to the left somehow, unless there has to be something on the right.
Okay, so then let's think about that. Where's the center of sort of like gravity, where the bird feels like it is really balanced?
Probably like around here.
Right, like right under the feet.
Yeah.
So if this is the center of gravity, does it feel like the bird will be falling back? Like it's going to be out of balance and fall back? Remember what I was saying?
You did mention about like if it's like if it was like taller and there's like not as much or something like that.
It has to feel balanced. So about the same body mass should be on one side as on the other, right? Body mass / weight. So look also, if this is our center of gravity for the bird, for what we sketched, and look, this is almost the same as the center of the painting, of the drawing, right? So this is 1/2, and this is the other half, plus like 1/4 of an inch here. So the center of gravity actually lines up with the center of the paper.
Of the paper.
Oh. So this is actually not bad.
Oh, really?
Right. Center of gravity kind of lining up with the center of your whole artwork.
I remember you said something about if there's not much going on, but it's long, and then the other side is like tall and something like that.
Yeah,
not as
yeah,
wide.
yeah. So let's think about all those things now while we're planning, right? So actually we could move the bird just a little bit over, because if we say like all of this is going to be the bird body with the feet right here, then it feels like not quite enough of the bird over here for the center of gravity. We should probably move it. And that is why, because by just sketching it roughly, we're not capturing anything precisely. And remember also when I was measuring the width, I said it felt a little too short. So the legs need to be taller, the legs need to be a little bit extended, or at least they, for this particular rough sketch. Alright, so we'll keep the feet right where the center of gravity is. We'll extend, they'll sketch the feet. The feet start to straighten out. The angle, instead of being this, is becoming more like this. Which is, if you look over there, you see that, yeah, the angle of the feet is actually maybe even straighter than that, maybe even more like that. Then the body could extend a little bit more over. It could be shortened a little bit here, just for that, capturing that gravity, that the center of gravity, the balance.
It's looking like a pigeon.
And then now that we've extended the legs, we've moved this over, we've shortened this a little bit. This distance became a little bit wider. This distance shortened, but only by a little bit, right? Not by a whole lot. So roughly we know that the head, beak line up with the chest. So wherever the chest comes out like this, it hits this boundary in a way, and it kind of roughly lines up with either the tip of the head or the tip of the beak. We haven't looked at it closely yet. We don't need to look at it closely yet. We just need to be approximately in the neighborhood. So now that we have extended the legs a little bit, let's measure the width of the bird again. Let's line it up. Now it fits in a square. What I measured is that the bird is a little bit taller than the square. So it has to come to about here. It would be better if it came to about there, right? So if you want to go so far as to think of it completely as a very first rough abstract, this will be a square that the bird fits into, right? But we measured that the bird doesn't quite fit into a square, so the head has to come to about here. And so it is a rectangle that is just a little bit taller than a square. That is very, very rough estimate. Okay.
What about the beak? It looks like there's no room for the beak.
We'll decide what to do with the beak. Remember what I said? I haven't looked at it closely enough to see whether the beak comes past this or if the beak fits in here. Haven't decided it yet. What we're doing is, the beak is such a tiny portion of the head that we need to just first think about the head as like basically one shape. And if you pay even a little bit more attention, you will see that it actually has a little bit of a slope like that. Okay, so that the head has a bit of a slope, kind of like that. See that? So does the body. The body has a little bit of a slope, but then we're starting to get more into next step details. But do you see how roughly you can sketch out your bird just by looking at big shapes? right? The body first started with an oval that already had a little bit of a slope. Now that you've gone and starting to notice more details, like there is a slope to the head. The head first started as an oval in this area. Now you're noticing there is a little slope. You move your oval slightly. You extended the legs, you captured the correct proportions. So just the fact that you captured this width compared to this height, and it's a little bit taller, which is what I've measured, you've captured the proportions of where the bird's supposed to fit into this whole thing. All right, so you are also staking out your whole drawing, fitting it into this horizontal paper. But you can see, because the bird is a little bit taller than it is wide, right? It's a little bit taller than it is wide. Then you can see how actually if you did it vertically, it could also work.
Oh.
Yeah. So right now, doing it horizontally, here the center of gravity of the bird, it's balanced, right? All this much of the body, like it's almost like if you calculate the square footage of the body, which will feel, visually feels like this is the weight of this portion of the body and the weight of all of this portion of the body, they feel about equal. So the bird is balanced, right? And the center of gravity lines up with the feet. That's obviously why it feels like it's standing on the feet and not leaning or falling. And because the center of gravity lines up approximately, it's very close to our center of the drawing, then the bird feels like it actually fits very well in this window, which is our paper, right? Even though there is more room here. The fact that there is more room and less room here only means that, well, maybe the bird is on the way in this direction. It's walking this way, or it's looking toward this way. Why it's looking this way? Maybe it's seeing something it wants to eat or investigate or something like that, see? So if you actually move this whole bird more this way, and had about equal amount here, it would feel like, oh, it's just about to walk out of the page. And it's kind of like, yeah, if you place it too close, so let's say this edge was like right here, and there was plenty of room here, it would feel kind of odd, like is bird, like, did somebody put it in the corner, time out or something? Why is it like so close to the edge? It's gonna like bump into it. It's just about to bump into it. But when you allow a little more room here, and less room means like there's nothing interesting. The bird's not interested about anything in the back. We won't even give it extra space. What's the bird looking at is all in here. Maybe it's slightly off page. So here's something there. Give it more room. It's about to walk over there. See how you think about it? But does it mean that you always do it this way? No. It means that when you're just doing the drawing of the bird, painting, you're just doing a study of the bird, this is the best way to place it. If you're doing a painting, you're an artist, and you want the viewers feel sorry for the bird, or feel like the bird's walking out of the picture, telling you that there's nothing to look at anymore. You want them to feel that way. You want them to feel like, why is it so odd that the bird's heading out? You want them to feel that feeling. Then you place the bird close to the edge, like it's about to walk off the painting. See what I mean? You use that. You use that to your advantage, to make the viewers feel the way you want them to feel. But right now we're doing a study. We just want to do concentrate on studying how to draw the bird, how to capture all the proportions correctly, the basic light and shadow and so on, so it looks fairly realistic. For that purpose, we don't need to tell viewers any story about where the bird's heading exactly. We just want all attention to be on the bird. And if we place it too close to the edge, it's going to add extra narrative and it's going to be just too distracting. We want not to distract attention from the bird and place it fairly in the center. This is the main attention. Pay attention to the bird. Right?
Do you have to put the platform as well that the bird is standing on?
You don't have to.
Oh, okay.
If you have time, if you want to do the platform, you can roughly indicate it. You can just sketch the fact that the claws come kind of close to this edge and that this goes kind of mildly this direction and the others are further back there. Where is it? Like right this. You can do that, but you don't have to. Okay? It's not something that's important.
Mm.
So if you want to just have a sketch of the bird, just concentrate on the fact that it's a bird. Not that it is a stuffed bird, but that it's just a bird. Oh. Everybody will just look at it and go like, nice drawing, looks like that kind of bird. What kind of bird is it? Oh, it's a partridge. Great, how did you do it? Da da da. You put the platform in there, obviously it's a stuffed bird.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
This is sort of still suggests that maybe it's out running around in nature. Okay. So, alright, now that we have this fairly rough sketch, you can start making connections with and go into a little bit more detail, right? So, like I said, we got to where the head, this is approximately, we didn't measure anything, we didn't do anything precise yet, but there it is, there's the head, it has a little inclination like this. So let's see and check if if this inclination is the right one. And where do I get this inclination from, actually? What do I look at when I get this line? It's pretty close.
You know what's interesting?
Yeah.
So basically back then, when we were learning how to draw cylinders and cubes,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't really go through that kind of step. Like we usually just try to actually measure it out and then just sketch it in and then make it kind of precise. For this one, I feel like it's more like you really showing that we're breaking everything up.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, we barely even measured over here.
Right.
And now we're going to look closer. And then looking closer to the point where you're looking at a microscope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, you can do a side measurement, transfer this angle here. That's pretty steep. So, transfer one of these angles here. And what is this angle actually? Where am I looking to get that? This line here. In the bird, I am looking at the beak, under the eye, and this shadow right here.
Wait, so you're measuring the middle part of the beak?
Yeah, kind of like through this division in the beak, under the eye and this shadow. See how they all kind of line up?
Yeah.
As forming like this one angle. And half of this head circular area kind of sits on that, right? So that's what I'm looking at. So the other thing I'm looking at, so you can measure this in the air, transfer it right to your paper, and then you can measure this one here. So like find sort of like feels like a center through the bird's body to the tip of the tail and transfer that angle into your drawing.
Did you measure like the top part of the tail?
Top part of the tail?
Yeah, like where you were putting the line. It kind of looked like you were putting it like kind of above the tail-ish. No?
No.
Oh.
Just basically through the middle of the tail. But the tail is so tiny that when you transfer in your angles, you just basically get close enough. It almost doesn't matter. So, alright, so what I'm noticing is this, that while the body is going at this angle, basically what you want is half of the body's width above this line, half of its width below it. So it looks like I need to go in this direction here like this. See how it's becoming half of it here, slightly less, half of it there. So one half, another half. Okay, that's good. What I'm noticing is this. So my ovally shape is becoming more precise by putting this in, right? My tail will be coming over here now. This will be my tail. And from the tail, I see that the tail is so small that I'll just roughly indicate it here like this. The tail and this line don't quite line up, right? The tail more points toward the rest of this body. It actually is more at this angle with the side of the bird. So while we're here, might as well measure that angle, transfer it here, and basically this is your angle, right? Your tail goes a little bit this way, the side of the bird's body goes a bit more this way. You measure that, and then you go to the next one this way. So this one is still at a somewhat of an angle, but now it's flattening out. So this is like steeper, this is flattening out. It's getting closer to a flat, but not all the way. Then you see that there is connection with the neck. So to where this one is going up once again, it wants to connect to the neck. Before we finish all of this, we want to bring this in here. So once we place the head, it's just in the right place. So because of this flowing into the tail, and we've already kind of indicated it here, what we can do is we can compare the tail to this portion of the chest. How do we do that? So you take your pencil, line it up with the tip of the tail in the horizontal line, and see where it hits the shape of the chest.
Horizontal?
Yeah, exactly horizontal. So you compare the
Honestly, this kind of reminds me of sketching a fruit.
Uh-huh.
Because first we're just like, oh, we look at an orange, it's a circle.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it's like, well, it has some edges to it.
Right.
So you cut that off. So after you do that, are you going to pinpoint like where the main shadow is?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. So let's see, where is our bottom of the tail compared to the chest? So from where I'm standing, the chest is a little bit higher, all right? Again, it slightly depends on your viewing angle. So basically what I'm seeing is that if I draw exact straight line across, and you can draw your straight line across, it's perfectly fine. As you get more fluent and faster at drawing and seeing it, you don't have to. So you can envision this line, but if it helps you, you can definitely draw that line. So basically what I'm seeing is that the chest starts to turn. Well, let's just chop it off completely right now, right? Let's just chop it off more like rough, like this.
Oh, chopping off the round chest?
Yeah. For now, we'll just chop it off more rough like that.
Oh, why are we chopping it off?
Easier to see all the directions.
Directions?
Yes, it's easier to see. So this one, I'd make it a little steeper. This one, I'll make it less steep, because then it goes into our legs, basically. right now we're chopping this off, it kind of goes a little teeny bit flat for a very short time, although there is always a curvature, but then I see that it actually has a bit of the inclination in this direction. And as it comes up here, about the same place where the body is right here, and this is our connection to the neck, about opposite of that on the other side, I'm seeing that this starts to come in closer toward the neck, right? And so out of that comes out the neck, which is kind of stretches out. We kind of have it here roughly already, and then it connects to the head. So we've already got a little bit of the curvature showing to the top of the head. We will work on this curvature, adjust it just right so it starts to look like the head. Okay, now is the time to actually check out the beak. I am putting my pencil up and down. I'm seeing that. All right, so this part of the chest definitely does not line up with the tip of the head where the beak starts. This is definitely not what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing is that the head comes a little short of this line, of this vertical, right?
The head gets chopped off?
A little bit, yeah. So the head's not coming right to here, and the beak flows out of that. So the beak is flowing out of that, and the bottom of the beak flows into this curvature, and the top of the beak has a curvature of its own, and then it flows, the head flows out kind of like this from here.
So it's not a round circle? Or
what is not a round circle?
The head is not really a...
Oh, it is. It's not. It still is oval. It's just it needs to be a little shorter over here. So it doesn't come all the way to here. We're just adjusting what our what it looks like. Right? Before it was just a rough sketch without trying much, just more intuitive. Now we're actually adjusting the size of it, so, and the shape of it. So what you look at it and you're seeing that, okay, the head is, if you drop the straight line, it actually comes more to the chest like this. That's where the actual head ends, and the beak, well, beak is part of the head, but it's such a distinct geometric feature, right? Comes a little bit past this line. So then from here the head comes out. Let's do it more rough now. And now we just need to decide, all right, if this was our angle, somewhere in here there was an eye sitting above this line. We need to place the eye exactly right. Is it going to be right here? Maybe exactly. It's a little close. Yeah. Maybe it's going to be here. Where is the eye, right? It's the eyes. it's somewhere in there, right? There are possibilities. So, how do we get it to where it looks the right way? So now we need to consider this whole distance from the beak to the back. This is still questionable. This was still just an estimate, right? This was just an intuitive estimate. We haven't decided whether it was exactly right or not. So let's do this. Let's compare it to something else that we've already sketched that looks pretty convincing. We compare from the nose to the back of the head that we have here. And let's say we will go down here and compare it to this size. From this curvature to this.
Could you really measure like the head with any of the body parts?
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you already sketched out some body parts that are definitely correct, no question about it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, and so you see what I've done is I took this measurement and I compared it to this. This looks distance from here to here looks as the same distance here in my sketch, right? Now I'm going to also compare it to the height from here to the whole head, the neck and the head. Yeah, it's less than this width, right? So that's a good proportion to know. So let's go into the actual bird in front of us, measure that width, compare it to the beak and the back of the head. So I'm going to the actual bird, I'm measuring this, comparing it to this, okay? Measuring this, comparing it to this. I compared it. It's close, it may be a little bit, teeny bit wider. And now let's compare it to the whole height, and it is slightly shorter. So what I sketched out is actually very, very close to the measurements over there. What you do is you sketch out first like this and more intuitively, you go measure, adjust what you've drawn. You might be close, you may have gotten it just right, you may have gotten it close enough, or you may be off. But by measuring this distance in the actual bird, comparing it to this distance, comparing it to the height, you will know, right? So you will know whether you've gotten close, not close, and whatever else needs to be adjusted. All right, so what I'm seeing is I'm pretty close here. So what I'm seeing is this here has a bit more of the incline in this direction. And I'm going to go ahead and capture this whole incline. So what I want to have is, I want to have this line. This is the whole incline. And I'm going to take my head, the top of the head, and I'm going to make sure that along this incline, this is a nice, gentle curvature. See? So this incline is just showing me that from about this point where it connects to the neck and to where it connects to the top of the head, there is this nice, gentle curvature. All right, so I just raised this just a little bit. Felt like it should be just a bit raised. So, all right. So what do I see again? We're going into a little bit more detail. So I see this incline, and you can even like go in there, measure, or like put your pencil in there, see what you see above your pencil, what kind of shape you're seeing. Does it look like this kind of shape? A little more pointy here and a little more rounded here. If it looks like what you're seeing, great. I'm also seeing that the top of the head has a little bit of a flatter look. It's not totally flat, but it has a bit of the flat-ish kind of looking look to it. It's like such a mild curvature that's very close to being a flat. And that flat is similar to this angle. So I'm looking at this angle, and I'm looking at the flatness in the head, and I'm seeing that it's kind of like more like this, like it lines up more with this line.
The head is getting chopped off even more. Yeah.
So because we don't want like super smooth lines where you don't see how the shapes are shaping up. We want to see planes, right? When we see planes, when we see like this plane, the light's shining at this angle, and then it changes to this plane, the light is just passing by. That means the terminator is right here, right? The moment it changes a slightly more of an angle, the light cannot get in here. And if we see this as planes, bless you.
Thank you.
If we see it as planes first, and then we come and smooth it out and make it curved, right? But we're seeing it as planes first and curved second, then we can also see how the light wraps around. That means this will get more light, this will get slightly less light, right? Slightly darker, but still getting a little bit of light, but it's starting to kind of like slide past it. And right here, no light, no direct light, and this starts to be a reflection.
Oh, so...
But we see it as planes first, because then it will help us shade it correctly, right? And as we shade, we can then smooth out our shading once more. We can add more details, right? We can start working on that, and suddenly it's no more planes, it's like starting to become a really more curved space.
So I have a question.
A curved plane. Yeah.
So basically you start with putting more of a line to it, so you could see like where the light is and where the shadow is. And then after you start doing that, then you do like the shadows, and then does it just become naturally curvy the more you shade it?
Yeah. You can totally think of it as chopped off planes first when you shade it. Just like what I've done here, right? Draw a line, say this is all medium, this is all dark, this is just a little bit lighter because of the reflection.
And the more precise you go with the shading, then all of a sudden those lines just become...
Yeah, it starts to smooth out. And many times you can even leave it a little choppier in your drawing, just for the sake of learning to see those planes. But when you stand back, your eye fills in the detail and you see it more smooth.
So,
Here we go, here's that flatness, and here's where it's heading more toward the beak now, right? Going into more details, this here, this angle here is pretty distinct actually. This does look kind of angular right here, right? So I'm looking at the actual bird, I'm looking at what I'm drawing, and I'm seeing that I do see this kind of distinct change right here. It is not that smooth, so for now I will keep it more angular. Okay, it goes right through to the beak, to the middle of the beak, or where the beak opens up, and only after this, after it meets with the divider of the beak, does the shape of the head starts, the silhouette shape starts traveling down. Here it was traveling more at this angle, now it's changing the direction more drastically. You can chop it off first, but knowing that there is curvature, right? You know that you can also give it a bit of a curvature right now. So what happens is that you kind of almost see where this ovally, or you can even think of it as a teardrop shape, right? It doesn't really matter, because this here is not super essential. What is essential is how this ovally shape fits into the head and how it affects it here. So right here, it affects this side under the beak by making it slightly curved. It goes in this direction and it's slightly curved. Then from here it starts to travel at, again, at slightly different direction again. Instead of more like this, it's a little more like that. How exactly? Let's try and get it a little close to what we're seeing. More like this. Alright, so this is close. You can also look at your imaginary straight line between the tip of the head here, before it becomes the beak, and this curvature in the chest, because those two, from this angle, those two practically line up. So if you look at this straight line and you look at what this curvature does, then you see just how extreme it is, right? It can go in more, it can go in less, or it can go even straighter. How much? What is it doing? That's what you do, is that you put your pencil looking at the bird, you line it up like this, and you look at this curvature in this empty space in here. And you try to capture the looks of that curvature. So what I am seeing is I'm seeing it going away more this way, This is becoming more mild, almost kind of going flat, starting to veer away, and then it veers away like very gently, and then suddenly it goes into that sharper curvature.
So when you're measuring something that small, do you just kind of do an estimate guess, like a educated guess?
It's always better to make your educated guess first, and then measure it. So you make your educated guess, you sketch it out, you look at the original in front of you, the object you're drawing, take a look at them, compare, is that what I'm seeing, is it close enough? Then if you suspect it doesn't look quite right, you measure. If you don't trust yourself yet, if you don't have enough experience, you often make mistakes, go ahead and measure it, but make the educated guess first. It's always better this way. The reason is you want to get to where your goal is. You trust your intuition. Your intuition is finally fine-tuned to capture it closer and closer to reality.
So and also it's like trusting your eyes? Like
trusting your eye. Yeah. So you are training your eye to see those details, and you're training your hand to do what you want it to do, to draw what you want it to draw, right? But the eye is important to train. The eye has to see whether you came close or not. So I've drawn this out, and I'm looking at the actual bird, and I'm seeing that my neck's starting to look too fat.
Oh.
This is not good. You know, where this was too much, it was making the neck too skinny. I could tell that from the beginning. This now is making it too fat.
Yeah.
So that means that I have to come in here and position my same line, basically same angles, and bring it over here and moving it over, right? Which is good because here it didn't quite connect to my original sketch.
So do you just take those two lines and then just like draw one in the middle?
Oh. Following those same angles. See, I was seeing that this slightly more angle change, and goes into the chest. So, and now that I've got all of those angles lined out, I would like to smooth it out. I will leave this is close enough for now. So again, we're not going into super detail, we're not overworking any one area, right? We don't want to overwork any one area. It's not good. You got to work on the whole thing together.
Oh.
Bring the whole thing together. I will do a little thing here. I will add the beak. The bottom of the beak, if you pay attention, is actually flatter, more like a flat line.
Oh. Like how it's shaped.
And it's narrower, yeah. And it doesn't extend very long, so... the eye, we also didn't place the eye. The beak and the eye are the important things. How far the beak comes out compared to the eye. We found this distance is pretty good. It fits with the neck, seems to fit with the rest of the body now, great. So we also have this line that we were already saying earlier, it was lining up with our beak, bottom of the eye, in that particular little shadow there. So the shadow that I'm seeing is obviously somewhere on this end. It does something like this.
Oh.
Coming out from the bottom portion of the eye, almost from the center of the eye. So let's see. So what you can do is, you can say, all right, my educated guess is the eye is a little closer to this end than to this end of the head. The eye is probably somewhere in here. Okay?
Ooh.
Educated guess. go in here and try to measure. It's kind of small and tedious, but it's not totally impossible. And you can see that, yeah, it definitely does look like this distance here to the center of the eye, and from the eye to here about lines up with this shadow. You see? So this gets kind of a light that's sliding. Even the feathers in here are kind of going in this direction like this. So that means that this is a pretty good position for the eye. There is a little bit of a light right under the eye, and the whole shape of the eye is actually an interesting shape. The shadows are helping us to see what's going on, and what I'm seeing is like almost like something like this, well, made by shadows with the eye fitting in the center. You see what I mean? The kind of shape I see.
Could you repeat that again?
Okay, so I'm looking at the eye, right?
Yeah.
The line goes on which the eye sits. Here's the line. I see that under the eye, I see a shadow that does something like this. There is like light right here. The rest becomes a shadow. The other shadow is forming right here, also somewhat arched way, like this. Like they both open up in this direction. And right here, the eye sits in again, with all of this being in the shadow. And obviously where the eye is, there is a lot of shadow, and it kind of just fits in here like that.
Kind of looks like a human eye, kind of.
Yeah.
But like cartoon vibe.
Yes. And then there is a little reflection, and everything else is dark. Did I kind of shaded the reflection. All right. And the thing is that you don't see exactly the whole roundness of the eye. So all of this is in the shadow, but what I'm seeing is I'm seeing this shape, right? This is what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing how the eye fits into it, and how it has a little bit of a reflection. And this happened to be very dark in there as well.
Ooh.
And this is light right under the eye. There's forming a light, and this is all a shadow again.
So do you shade those early?
No.
Oh.
You just, well, maybe just like with your lines roughly, because you're doing a bunch of thick lines, you're not going into super detail yet. But so anyway, so just think of it as like, here is this kind of arch under the eye. It kind of out of that comes out another kind of big arch that goes over the eye. And for now, we are just doing rough estimates, right? So this is very rough here. And then the whole eye and everything has to end somewhere in here, although this shadow does continue. This shadow continues more where this plane gets change in light, and it actually also continues even darker over here. So not only all of this is dark. I'm doing it not because you need to do it, I'm doing it so you could see what I'm drawing.
Ooh, so the eyes...
I'm drawing the planes for you, the change of planes. I'm chopping it off. Change of plane comes out of this particular corner. Remember I said how it looks kind of pointy? Yeah. Like it looks like a sharp corner. There's a change of plane. All of this plane is facing more into the light. All of this is starting to miss a lot of the direct light. It's like in what is happening here. So our light angle is about like that.
So this is all like shadow
Mm-hmm.
that you're shading.
This is starting to be like either a shadow or
A marking. It looks like a marking.
yeah. It is. Yeah, I think it's either a shadow or close to like being right on the verge between light and Terminator. Direct light, mid-tone and Terminator. So, alrighty. So I'll leave this shading in here so you could be reminded. So the eye goes somewhere in here. Roughly sketched in. And I'll clean this up just so that no confusion. So we do see what is happening. Definite light, definite shadows forming. Okay. So, by the way, right in here there's also another division. There's another piece of light here, and all of this is going to be in the shadow. We'll come back to it. Let's finish the beak. The beak, like I said, it follows in this direction. There is less of the beak we see on the bottom. Now let's see if we got the length of it correct. Does it stop here? Is it a little longer? Is it a little shorter? Because we already got the eye. The placement of the eye seems to be good. I'm going to see, you can kind of estimate, but you can also measure. You can see that the length of the beak from the point of this portion of the head and the length of the beak are about the same. This distance here is about the same as the length of the beak. So I will extend it just a little bit. And the top of the beak is almost like it's somewhat lines up with the eye. Do you see what I'm doing here?
Oh.
I'm drawing it like this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like if we could continue the shape of the beak through the head of the bird, it will almost line up with the eye. It would almost feel like it's part of the same arch. Does it make sense? This, see, if I draw this line here, it will feel like the beak is part of the same arch. And then the beak starts curving more down.
It's like the beak is connected to like...
Correct. Yeah. It's like those shapes are not there by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just attached to each other however you can. They somehow flow one after another. They still all make sense. And right here, some of this portion of the beak picks up a little bit of light. So I will stake out this light right now, and I'm going to come in here and perfect my shape of the bird's head a little bit. So it's now not chopped off straight line, but it's more curved. I need to shorten my pencil. It's starting to be dull, too dull. Alright, so you see what I've done here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I staked out a little bit of light so on this portion of the beak. Why? Because right here is where the bird has its nostrils. Okay, so this is good enough for now. We're not going into final adjustments of all the details. Let's finish the rest of the body. So this seems to be flowing well into here. Let's finish the bottom over here. So we have our tail that flows out of here. We have our tail that kind of goes in the same direction here. If you actually continue this shape here, like in the same direction as here, you see that this portion here, kind of going in the same direction, very, very similar, is the wing. The wing feathers come out right from here. And out of this portion of the chest, comes out our wing. And our wing stops, but it stops somewhere in here. See where the feathers go under? So what is happening is now we can pay attention to this curvature of the chest here. So the chest comes out like this, and you can almost continue the line that you see over here on this side. That goes back into somewhat into the line that we've already drawn under the width of our neck here. You can see a shadow forming in here, and that shadow has a little bit of this kind of curvature here, right? And then it kind of goes in there. All right. So, and this shadow connects to this shadow here. Remember I was saying there was another shadow forming here? So far so good. If this connects to this shadow, then we can see that, okay, this comes out like this, then it points down a little bit more, kind of close to this area, to the edge. All right, let's move it a little bit closer. It also forms a little bit of a sort of like a triangular type of transition, different planes. And when we find this little transition, do you see what I'm talking about? I'll point to the bird. So this is the chest continuation here, and as it flows into this shadow, you have this little transition here, right? It's like this goes this direction, this goes in this direction and in this direction, and this becomes like a little dimp, like dimples in the cheeks. Some people smile, they have dimples. This is sort of like a dimple, right? Where one curvature meets another curvature. This is that little triangular shape, but that little sort of triangular shape helps us also flow into the back. You kind of see where this is going. Again, you're looking for those planes. That little dimple suggests change in planes, and it helps us draw everything more precisely. So let's look for this dimple. So again, I just sketched it out roughly, just knowing that I see it there. Did I place it in the right position? Now let's think about it. So it's kind of closer to here, and this is happening here. I think I can even make it more curved like that here, and then it flows. The wing feathers kind of come out of here like that, and they come out from behind it as well. And the whole thing then also flows into here, like in this semi-flat and then more round. Why? Because the whole back of the bird is also another plane. It's like a little bit flatness on the back of the bird here. Thus, this is kind of like our other plane.
Is that the wing? I thought the other curve was the wing.
No, this is not the wing. This is just the flatness of the back of the bird.
Flatness?
Flatness.
Is it on that little dip that you were talking about?
From the dip to here, it goes a little more in this direction, and then it starts to curve suddenly. So it's like goes like this, and then it curves. So that suggests a change in plane. Everything here is one value, everything here is another value, probably lighter, because it's more toward the sun, toward the lamp, right, in this case. So that's what I'm looking for. This also happened to hit right where this other line and dip comes in, right? I see a little bit of a dip here, and this other back portion comes out more like that. Do you see that? There's like a little dip, and because of that, it makes sense. So we've connected our dimple We've connected it with the line we see where there's like a switch between feathers. Like all these feathers, they seem to go more this way. And all the feathers on the other side of this line seem to go in this direction. You see what I mean?
Does a bird actually, like, I know this bird is stuffed, but let's say you see the same bird but it's alive. Does it actually have that effect?
Yeah.
They do?
Yeah.
They have that?
They get pretty close. So first of all, it's all the original feathers and everything. But what they do is they literally sculpt the shape of the bird that's supposed to be on the inside, and they put the skin back over it.
For some reason, my head is just like, does a bird actually really have that kind of effect?
Yeah. It's all anatomically correct. That's why they keep all those stuffed animals in art schools.
So that's why we start off with like a bird who doesn't move. Then when you go outside and then see a real bird that's actually moving, you won't be kind of like struggling.
Correct.
To be like, ooh, what is that bird? How is it sized?
Yeah, exactly.
And how am I going to do this? It keeps moving.
So you do more long-term drawings like this. You do them for a while. You do several. Not necessarily all birds. It could be any other animals. You can draw your sleeping dog, anybody's sleeping cat while they're not moving, where you have more time. Sketch. And you start to get the hang of it. You start to feel where you need to go with the next line and the next line, you know. You start seeing the main shapes, you start going into details easier and faster, and the birds jumping around, but you can still get a decent sketch.
So that's kind of like the hardest part of drawing. Just like drawing, like let's say a tree outside that's like moving in the wind. But you could still capture it, like, oh, this tree was like windy, so I just like captured like one frame of like the tree moving, and then there you go.
If it's moving in the wind, it's always coming back to the same shape, so it moves in more or less the same way. So you decide which time frame you're gonna capture that, right? When it's pushed more down by the wind or where it's back upright, and then every time the wind blows it down more, you just say, okay, I'll just wait. It came back upright. What was I looking for? This shape. Okay, and it looks more rectangular. Okay, it blows again, comes back up. What does it look like? That's more rounded. And you just keep waiting for it to be more upright again and again and again. And every time it comes upright, you draw. So some of those birds, they jump around, right here that I was sketching. They jump around, but what I do is like, I decide on, I watch it jump around, I watch it feed or whatever, and I just look at which position does the bird assumes most often. What do I see from where I'm sitting? Which position does the bird assume most often? And then I go like, okay, I'll do that position. And then I just keep waiting. The bird moved. I wait for it. It came to about the same position, very similar. What do I need now? I needed the head. Oh, the head was shaped this way. It jumped around, moved. I wait. It came to a similar position again. All right, now I needed the neck. Now I adjust the neck. Maybe I remember a few things already. Now the feet, how long are the feet? What do I see of the feet? Do I see only one foot? Do I see the other? Wait for it to come to about the same position. Maybe a couple of times you realize that you almost never see the other foot from this angle. You only worry about this one foot. The other one's behind its body or something. You see what I mean?
Yeah, so basically that's where also memory sketching comes in as well.
Exactly.
Just in case the bird like just flies away.
Yeah.
And then like let's say like on that step, then your head is just kind of like, well, the feet is usually this position. If the bird is just standing.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, they usually have like this kind of pattern or something like that.
Yeah. And sometimes the bird or the cat. One time I was drawing the cat, and he would never stand in one position very long, like a minute, and he moves on. Just as I find a really cute pose, he stands there for a minute and then he changes. So what I did is and that was always around feeding time. Like he's waiting to be fed. So I just came day after day when he was feeding, waited for him to get in the same pose and keep working on the same sketch.
Ooh,
basically.
So even like a sketch could like take more than one day.
Yeah, especially if you know the animal's coming back, right?
This bird is looking similar to a pigeon, but except honestly, the more I look at it, the pigeon more, like the back is more kind of curved.
Yeah.
But this one is more of like kind of like a line that's like, oh, you start from here and go here.
It's probably because they're somewhat related. You know, it would be interesting to see if they're in the same family, like dogs and coyotes, or what. But that's the fun part. You know, you draw it, you notice similarities to other birds, and you start asking yourself questions like that. Oh, it looks kind of similar to a pigeon. I wonder if they're related. Look it up in the book. Suddenly, you're not just a bird artist, you're also a bird expert. And you know more about birds. You don't just draw them, but you actually know who they are, how they are related, why they look like this, what they eat, where they hang out, and so on.
Is that why you know a lot about birds?
Yeah.
And also like plants too?
Yeah. You kind of keep asking those questions, and because you can't like seriously just draw things and not ask those questions.
Yeah.
Those questions just keep coming up naturally, pretty much. So anyways, let's continue with this one. So we worked on this dimple, we worked on that, we connected this dip, we made sense of it. But what I do see is that from here, there's this shape coming out, there's a few more wing feathers here, coming out of here. There's also a break and plane here. All of this is a little lighter, all of this is starting to get darker. It's curving away from light, it's curving toward the shadow that runs somewhere around this area, right? Somewhere around here. All of this is going to be in the shadow, all of this is going to be in the shadow. It's not going to be in the direct light. So that's why I'm paying a little bit of attention to this shape, to this shape. So because it's more in the light, let me just lighten it up right now, avoid confusion. And then I'm seeing that as the wing comes down to the tail, I'm seeing that it actually makes a rapid turn. And right at the wing, right at the tail, I'm seeing that the tail actually has a very interesting kind of shape. It sort of does this. It sort of goes in. It's sort of like another set of feathers, I guess, coming out, and then it's turning and going back up, connecting with this whole portion of the body.
So now you're smoothing out the lines.
Yeah, might as well, since we smoothed out this nice cute tail. And right where this sort of sideways gentle S comes in is where our wing feathers and the whole wing is making this nice definite turn. So this is sort of like almost like another division in the wing, another change of planes. Lighter, medium tone, and this is starting to turn away from light. Not the terminator yet, but maybe even darker medium, but definitely a kind of division. And it doesn't come to the dimple, it comes lower than this dimple. From this dimple, which is probably our darkest portion in this area, we also have another shape come out where the light changes, the planes change. And I see it kind of like going in this direction. But where exactly is it heading? Maybe it's heading more like this, where is it? At this point you can look at it and you say, alright, what I should probably do is compare my proportions. I can also get the angle of it. Looks like it's something closer to this, and then I am going to compare the width from that particular part to the side of the bird, to the right side, and compare it to the left side. looks like it is lining up with the center of the body. So let's see, if this is it, this is one half, this is the other half. That's very close, you see. So it's starting to shape up. The light changes right in here. So this comes down here. And what do I see it flow into? I see that it flows right into the feet, kind of like that. So here's our dimple, right? Here's the tip of the wing coming to another change of plane, where all of this is definitely more in the light. This is starting to be darker, right? Terminator is probably more like here, but nonetheless the change in plane happens right here. It's very curved. And so I'm looking at what's coming out of the dimple, this change in plane. This is slightly darker and this is slightly lighter. And it change in plane because of the anatomy. So this is going this way, right? But you see how it also flows into the leg.
Oh, now I see it.
See?
Yeah.
So you're looking at that, you can capture the angle of the curvature. That seems good. It curves. This is the angle, and that's how it curves. And then it travels almost like right into the feet, so you can capture the angle of the legs to the feet. And you can now see that, all right, so it seems like the angle of our feet is pretty good here. So that works. So if this works, we can start working more on how things connect. This one here kind of stops right around the bottom, right? The wing has a bit of a curvature like this. You can see that you can capture this straight line and see how the wing curves. So you can go in there, you can capture that incline, and you go like, okay, it's not exactly parallel to the edges, it's slightly angular.
Oh, the wing is getting chopped off.
Well, it's a line that helps us get the wing right. So the wing is a little bit at an angle, right? That's the direction, and then curvature that comes out like this and heads right into here. Right here there is also a change of plane again, once again, because the wing just sits on top of the body. From under the wing, somewhere in here comes out the bottom feathers. So this is like the back end here. These feathers come out from somewhere under this portion of the wing, but where? So we have this distance here, we have this distance here, and then we have the distance of just how far down they come out, right? And is it coming out more this way, more this way? How much of the wing is left? So what you can do is you can look at it and guess, all right? I looked, and this is what I guessed. What is happening with this shape here? Let's measure the portion of the wing, each wing where those fluffy feathers come out, and compare them. Ah, I see. So what is happening is this distance here is more equal to this distance here. So definitely not far back like that, and definitely not this way. You definitely have this a little wider, and then this, yeah, that's about equal. So we have this direction here. Let's compare this direction to this direction. So this is coming out, this curvature is kind of relates to this line. This also, because of this curvature, starts to do this line. It's like one of the very visible lines in here. And this one kind of needs to be compared to that. So let's capture a more precise incline here. So now we have more of this incline, and we're looking at this incline, and we're seeing that this is a little bit of the like opening up, right? So this is a little bit more down, this is a little bit less. You see what I mean? Mm. This also here kind of suggests that the wing continues past this line. So this is only like another break in the wing, and the wing does continue, and the shadow is right in here, right approximately in this area.
So are you measuring on the shadow now?
No, I'm just guessing. So I have this line here, I have this connection, there's a little bit of a change in how this wing looks, but I'm also seeing that the shadow, definite shadow, this is more in the light, this is definite shadow, is like right here, and I'm seeing how this direction compares to this direction, and the break, like a little dipping in the wings, like the main wings, I guess they stop around here, but there's a little bit more of a change in reflection, something in the feathers, a little bumpiness, kind of continues a little bit more this way. And all of this here, the shadow is kind of a little bit changing direction. It's not exactly, it's not in all like that. I think it's because of this change in play here, that this shadow is a bit more like this, more of a shadow. Obviously all of this is in the shadow as well, just didn't do exactly the shape of it yet. So what I see is shaping up nicely is, I see that this change in plane here and this in here, I'm seeing that yes, it's starting to get very close, and there is a bit of a curvature in here. That means that the straight lines we drew previously now need to get their curvatures. And now this curvature flows nicely into our legs. The leg itself is not super straight either. It has a bit of a thickness, and it almost like has a little curvature of its own. It's almost straight, but there's also muscles and things attached. You end up seeing that there are a little bit of a difference. Some portions look very, very straight. Others start looking like maybe they're not so straight. And so as this flows into here, and from behind that we have this kind of fluffiness coming out, and this fluffiness is kind of ending right here and wrapping around the leg. Pay attention to how to do one of the fingers that comes forward. That's one of the longer ones. It goes almost straight ahead, flat. One of the fingers comes out a little more toward us and is a little foreshortened because it comes out toward us. There is one of the little claws in the back here. You can capture that. And another finger that is coming out from the back. You can just barely see it. It's very foreshortened. And there is another foot. Right, there's a whole other foot that hides right behind it. So what you need to figure out is the other foot that hides behind it. How's it going to be lining up in back of this foot? Well, for one, we see more of it on this side, and a little bit, the fluffy feathers here are a little bit shorter. That means that we're looking more down, and so there is that perspective.
Oh.
That's why the other fluffy portion of the bird is shorter, fluffy portion of the leg in here, right?
And if you made them the same size, then it would look weird.
That means you're looking straight across at the bird, and the bird should be sitting higher, right?
Yeah.
At least at this part. Okay, then you see the other foot come out in there, right behind the first one. It's fairly easy because they seem to be coming out at almost the same angle. I see that it's coming out heading toward here like that. Like we see a little bit more of it near the top portion of the leg. We see a little bit less toward the bottom where it hides behind the other foot. And I see this big main finger slash claw come out a bit higher because we're looking down, so there's that perspective again. And I see it come out. And I see that this toe is actually needs to be a little bit longer because I'm comparing it to where it's under the bird. I see that it has to be quite a bit longer. I made the foot too short first. And the other toe is coming out, and it's kind of like even more of an angle. More like this, and hiding behind the first one. So a thing to keep an eye on is measure this toe and measure this toe. The one in the back cannot be longer than the one in the front perspective, because the one in the front and the one in the back, the bird is standing with its feet almost parallel to each other. It might be a little bit of a crookedness, but the one in the back is still in the back, so there is no way it can be longer than the one in the front. Okay?
No way,
no way. And so this toe, again in the straight line, just a little bit longer. The one in the back here, since we made the one in the front a little longer than this one, has to be moved a bit. And this toe here is, you almost don't see it. It hides behind this toe, and the one in the back, that one, you see it. It actually kind of like jumps up a little bit in the air. All right. So right now, because you've already drawn the first foot in front, it's starting to be fairly easy to just almost like a repeat silhouette, very, very close for the second foot. And just so that you are not confused from now on, so you don't forget what you've done with your drawing of these legs, you go ahead and darken the one in the back. Just separate it by giving it a nice light shading. The back leg. Okay, the back leg is shaded, and that's separated down. This one looks like it's in front, the other one looks like it's in the back.
Usually when you like bold up the lines, that usually means that they're up close now.
The legs are very close, but we want to separate one from the other. Later both of them will be darker. Just the one in the back will end up being slightly darker. That is so you don't forget what those lines mean. You don't have to shade it very dark. You don't have to make it sharp and bold. You just give it a difference. So I'm just gonna leave this feet very sketchy for now, because for our sketch this is totally adequate. What you can do is just add a little thickness to the feet, to each of the toes. There is a little thickness to them. They're not just sticks. And you can do like the final details later. There is also a shadow that's coming right on the edge of the feet here. Because we don't have a full table that's sitting on that cube, you can just suggest the shadow and make it disappear basically. So you can say like, alright, definitely everything back there is going to be a shadow. And that's it. All of this, as we already indicated, all of this is in the shadow, so you can start doing nicer cross hatching to establish a nice good shadow.
So
more
we're still
solid.
going to be doing the shadows, but we don't have to do the pattern.
You don't have to do the feathers. Don't worry about the feathers at all at this point. Do the basic light and shadow, and capture, the main thing is capture the shape of the bird. The bird is kind of darkish, grayish, brownish, right?
It's a whole mix.
Right, and it's definitely darker in value than the whole background. At this point or at next lesson, you can simply give the whole bird a value.
Like this.
A whole bird gets a value, nice, strong value, except for the shiny spot in the eye. You staked out your light and shadow territories. The shadow casts shadow on the table. You now can look at the silhouette. If you want to do a little more adjustments, you can do that. You can slim the bird up a bit so it's like not too, nothing is too weird and looking like it's swollen up or something. You can come and do final adjustments to your shapes, because especially when you start giving it a bit of the light and shadow, you start seeing more of the changes in all the shapes. Now it's a silhouette against white paper. Now it's even more apparent what it is that needs to be changed. How the head is exactly that. There is a flatness here, but it's also a bit of a curvature. How the beak is exactly. Smooth things out. How the back is exactly.